Good afternoon. Thanks for joining us across the fence. I'm Fran Stoddard. Our guest today is a Vermont author whose books have focused on local lore, notorious legends, and ghostly spirits. She is also the founder of Queen City Ghostwalk, which is celebrating its 20th anniversary this fall. Thea Lewis has authored 5 books in the Haunted America series. Her first book, published in 2009, is Haunted Burlington: The Spirits of Vermont's Queen City. Now, that book has been adapted into a new book by a teacher from Texas. The adaptation is entitled The Ghostly Tales of Burlington. And to learn what the adaptation is about, how it happened, I am joined by Thea Lewis from her home in Burlington. Good afternoon and welcome. Thank you for being with us. You've got many irons in the fire, Thea.
I do. Thanks for having me. I think this season is going to be a lot of fun. There is a lot going on.
Yeah. So first, just what does this mean? What is a book adaptation?
So book adaptation is when you take a piece of work from an author. An adaptation can really be from any kind of artistic source, and you turn it into material that's looked at in a whole new way. In this case, we've got a book for kids. It's middle grade readers that it's actually directed toward, and it was an interesting concept to me, and I love the fact that they've chosen it.
Right, so it was a teacher and writer from Texas who adapted this work, and you're actually a kind of a character in it. How did that all feel to you?
It was surprising to feel like a character in my own book. Carrie Utner is wonderful. We have been texting a little bit back and forth, and she is just such a great, warm personality. She is, we might call her the Queen of Halloween of Texas. Her birthday is on Halloween, and I think she loved writing this second New England adaptation for the History Press.
Well, it's pretty cool, and so congratulations on your first adaptation, which then expands your audience in all kinds of corners. So it's great. But this all started, of course, with your creation of the Queen City Ghostwalk, which is turning 20 years old this fall. Give us a quick rundown of some of the things you've done and added over the years.
Well, it's so hard to believe it's been 20 years. We started 20 years ago with our downtown tour, which didn't really have its own particular name at the time. But as time went on and we added tours in other locations, we started to think that that one needed its own identity. So we call it the Darkness Falls Tour. After the Darkness Falls Tour, I started doing tours in local cemeteries, and then wrote the book Ghosts and Legends of Lake Champlain, and that spurred me to write some stories and scripts for our waterfront tour, which is called Ghosts and Legends of Lake Champlain. Until finally, last year, we sprang on a younger public a tour in local cemeteries called Fright by Flashlight, and also a new tour called True Crime Burlington. So a lot going on and lots of new people to meet with so many interests here in the Burlington area. True crime is such a popular topic these days, and it was fun to put this together.
Well, you certainly cover a lot of ground, and you have all these very different tours. So what do people get to experience in general when they're on your walks and they choose these different topics, right?
Well, yeah, our tours have always been really steeped in history, from the Darkness Falls tour years ago to our very latest tours. We like to let people have a little scare. We like to hook them with the spooky stuff, but we also like to let them know who are the people and places that really left their mark on the city of Burlington and the surrounding areas. And so we do clue people in on people who, the movers and shakers that have made the Queen City great.
So give us a hint at a few of those stories.
Oh my gosh. Well, we have, of course, Timothy Follett, who owned the beautiful white mansion on College Street that overlooks Lake Champlain. Timothy Follett was a railroad tycoon, but he was so much more than that. He was a businessman who created a store on Burlington's waterfront, and also with a group of investors, a textile mill in the city of Winooski. He was just a fascinating character. Another character that is dear to my heart is the Hermit of Champlain, Isaac Nye. Isaac Nye was a man who lived in the Shanty on the Shore building back in the 1800s. He had a store there in the lower level and lived out back. That was when the water line was very close to that building in the city of Burlington. It's interesting to note that Isaac Nye and Timothy Follett had a relationship. Timothy Follett wanted to fill Isaac Nye's water rights to create room for his railroad. People do find out a little bit more about that when they take my walks.
And do you talk about, I mean, are those two places haunted?
Those two places are quite haunted. We've had people who work in the shanty on the shore, also the previous owners, Lake Champlain Transportation. Everybody has a little story about shanty on the shore. The Follett House, it's funny, sometimes during radio interviews particularly, people ask me, can Burlington be so very haunted? And the Follett House is quite haunted and kind of a jewel in Burlington's crown where ghosts
Yeah.
are concerned.
It's gorgeous, and even the Flynn Theater. So just for people to know, there's a ghost that pops up there for those that work there.
One of my favorites.
So you mentioned a tour for kids called Fright by Flashlight. So give us some insight on what you do on those tours and the proper ages for kids who might go on that tour.
Sure. We say that Fright by Flashlight is a tour that's probably good for kids who are maybe 8 to 12 years old. It's different from our other tours in that people get to experience, the kids and their parents, because all children should be accompanied by an adult. They get to explore old-fashioned ghost hunting techniques. So none of the Gauss meters or things you might see people using today, none of the Ghostbusters stuff. We use things like compasses and pendulums. And it's a fun walk through Lakeview Cemetery in Burlington, a very historic cemetery. And the kids will enjoy this year glow stick necklaces. So it's easier for all of us to keep track of one another as we are exploring very carefully, with respect, gravestones and finding out a little bit more about the ghosts of Burlington with tales from ghosts in the inner city.
That's wonderful. And you also, I mentioned that you had 5 books. Actually, there's 6. The 6th book is for kids. Tell us about that.
My 6th book was with Peapod Press, and that is called There's a Witch in My Sock Drawer.
I love that title. Sorry.
And There's a Witch in My Sock Drawer talks about a little girl named Lucy who loves Halloween but hates to clean her room. And we discover that when she is waiting to go trick-or-treating and has not yet cleaned her room, her mom kind of lays down the law and hilarious hijinks ensue. So that is one of my favorites that I've written. And it's wonderful to me when people with young children come up and say, I have to read this book to her every night. That's sort of the goal, right? As a children's
Right, absolutely.
every night.
So a couple more things. There's also another new special event in October, and it's called Here for the Booze, BOOS, but
BOOS, ooh.
But yeah, go ahead and tell us about Here for the Booze.
We are with our dear friends who are actually in my home neighborhood, Burlington Beer Company on Flynn Avenue. We are presenting this event. Over the years, I've had people say, I love ghost stories, but I really am either unable to or really not crazy about the idea of walking around in the fall chill. Why don't you have something seated? And so we've done some things out and about, but I thought, why not on our 20th anniversary, really pull out all the stops and do something at a great place with a great ambiance and great beer. We're going to be, I am going to be dressed to the nines and telling ghost stories for about an hour and a half there at Burlington Beer Company on October 19th at 7 p.m.
And they have great history there too. I mean, it's just what a perfect place to do it.
It is wonderful, and people will hear some ghost stories about that very building.
Yeah. So before we run out of time, you're planning a new book now. Something new is coming out next year.
That's right. My publisher, the History Press, has asked me to author a book about true crimes in the area. It's going to be a historic true crimes of Burlington, and I will cover crimes in Burlington, but crimes also a few noteworthy in the surrounding area. And that book should be out next fall. I'm going to be working on it this winter after it's too cold to go walking around downtown with large groups of people telling ghost stories. I'm looking forward to it.
Well, what got you involved in this kind of story, these eerie stories, these difficult for some stories? How did you even get started in this whole realm?
Well, I think as a writer, I'm so curious about all kinds of things. I'm also a person who loves to deal in worst case scenario. And boy, true crime is certainly worst case scenario stuff. But all of the ghost tour stuff started 21 years ago, I went to Salem, Massachusetts, and went on my first ghost tour. Thought that Burlington, that really didn't have many or even any regular tours at the time, really needed something like that. And away I went. And I've just, over the years, kind of explored further and further, ghosts and true crime. And I used to do fun children's events, and decided to incorporate that
Put them all
into the
together.
scheme of things as well. Yeah.
Awesome. So where can viewers learn more and sign up for a tour? How can they get your books?
People can always find my books at Phoenix Books, Yankee Bookstore, lots of other independent booksellers in the state of Vermont who have been kind enough to carry my books and provide them for people who are looking for ghostly and true crime tales. They can also find the books at larger stores like Barnes & Noble and online. And people who want more information about the books or the tours can visit us at QueenCityGhostwalk.com. That's www.QueenCityGhostwalk.com. There's lots of information there, tours, times, and even a page of frequently asked questions for people who want to know what the tours are about, and maybe how to dress, or what to expect on your average haunted tour in Burlington.
Ooh, how to dress. So quickly, how do you dress for a haunted tour?
Comfortably and in costume if you like, but always sensible shoes are what I recommend. We do walk, for the most part, on the beaten path, on sidewalks, but there are some places where it's rained. It might be puddly, and the cemeteries are usually a little bit more rustic.
Funky. Okay, Thea, thank you so much. Have a wonderful season.
Thank you so much, Fran. Always nice talking with you.
You too. And once again, thank you for joining us across the fence. I'm Fran Stoddard. Stay well.